Hey, Arman here, and in this video we're going to talk about things that affect your cholesterol. So if you've got a typical cholesterol results back and the doctor says, hey, these are high, we want to put you on a statin, here's some things you need to consider before you're making that decision, or if you're on it, reconsider based on information and what's available today. So first and foremost, what I would suggest is when you have an elevated cholesterol reading and the doctor feels like they need to put you on a statin, before you go that route, I'd ask them to run an ApoB test, which is apolipoprotein B. So what that test will tell you is if your cholesterol particles are large and fluffy, which is good, or if they're small, which is not as good. So that's what you're looking for, and that gives you a better indication of whether you should seriously consider taking a drug to maintain appropriate cholesterol levels. And there's a lot of hot debate on, what's good and bad on all this. Because just having high LDL doesn't necessarily mean that's a problem. And having low LDL doesn't mean that's great, you're not going to have your problem, because people die from both. So it's better, it's an understanding of how everything is impacted. So you want to have a good HDL level, and you want to have good LDL, etc. But use the apolipoprotein B test to have a better gauge, so you can have a better conversation with your doctor about how you want to deal with cholesterol if it's a concern. All right, so one of the supplements that I like to use is Berberine, and it does help with lowering the LDL, helps increase HDL, it helps lower triglycerides, it helps improve AMPK, which is good for energy, and also has a lot of benefits to the gut microbiome, which is always beneficial. So it's a really good supplement to take, and generally you would take like 1,500 milligrams a day, but you would take that, you can take it with 500 milligrams with each meal if you're eating 3 times a day, or just take it in the evening with your last meal. But if you take too much all at once, it could affect your intestinal system a little bit, so you want to kind of do it gradual. But it has a lot of great benefits. Now, one of the things about these different solutions we're talking about, even though they're natural, they will interact with other medications. And so that's another thing you need to do a little homework on, and we can do it for you too. But, if you're going to take the berberine, then we want to know what medications you're on, because, it can affect you. So if you're on a statin or something, it can affect that. If you're on blood pressure medicine, it can affect that. So keep that in mind. And any of these things can do that. So we're going to just have a disclaimer on this. Always double check with your medical professional, but make sure that the medical professional you're running this by has done some homework and has a good answer for why you couldn't take it, etc. So just want to make sure you're doing that. All right, so the other thing that can help with cholesterol is niacin. And now with niacin, you don't want to take a lot of that, okay, because it can also increase your glucose levels, which isn't productive. And I see that happen with people too. So there's a nice balance on utilizing niacin to help with cholesterol. So I'm just going to tell you what my winning formula is so far with taking niacin. I take 100 milligrams of niacin before I work out, and I do strength training. Now you can do it before strength training or cardiovascular work, but I only take it on the training days, and I take 100 milligrams before I work out, and it gives you a mild flush. Okay, if you take a lot more, it's going to give you a more severe flush, which isn't comfortable, and it'll turn you red, and you may feel like you got to go to the emergency room because you don't know what's going on, but it will pass. But with 100 milligrams, you don't get that kind of effect, so that's one thing. But what I found happen with me is it has increased my HDL, which is normally running about 42 to 43. It's got me all the way to 80 mark. And the thing with good HDL is it helps to push out any excess cholesterol. So that's the benefits of having a good level of HDL in your system. And there's always debates on all this stuff too, but there's plenty of science that talks about that. So getting a high HDL reading is really beneficial, and it helps offset a lot of issues, in my opinion. So again, I'm not a doctor, but I do work with a lot of medical professionals, so there's a lot of opinions on this. All right, so another thing it also does is going to lower your LDL. It's going to help bring down triglycerides, and triglycerides are the thing you got to keep an eye on too, because that's what can cause blockage, and typically comes from excess carbohydrate intake and other sources, sugar, and then it can also affect the particle size, which is important. So if it makes the particles larger. So like I mentioned before with the ApoB apolipoprotein B test, if you have that done and you're coming back with smaller particles, taking the niacin can help that over time to help make them bigger particles potentially. So, but that's the thing it can do, and that's really helpful. And I also think it's really been helpful for me since I've been doing it for years now. So my LDL ratings and cholesterol ratings are really good, but again, that's an interpretation based on who feels what's optimal for cholesterol. Because you do need cholesterol. You need it to rebuild cells, you need it for your hormones. It's really important to have a good amount of cholesterol. Now your body makes it, okay, so it's just a matter of controlling it as best you can with, with what we're talking about. All right, so now a more severe type of supplement, I say severe in the sense that red yeast rice has shown to be pretty effective, and it has a little bit of an effect to you, a flush effect, but it'll increase your HDL, lower the LDL, and lower the triglycerides, but the thing is, it works like a statin. Now, I'm just going to say this, if you're not familiar with how a statin works, let me just kind of clear the air. All a statin drug does, it keeps the liver from making cholesterol. That's what it does. And it does have a good amount of side effects depending on the person. So that's the thing you want to keep in mind when you take a statin drug. But red yeast rice will act similar to that. So this is like, the last thing you want to add into your protocol if your cholesterol is not where you want it, then this would be a little bit more extreme because it'll have some of the similar side effects of a statin just because of how it works in the system. But it is all natural, and that is, to me, a more beneficial thing. Okay, so another supplement that's really good is fish oil, because it, again, thins the blood, it takes that inflammation down, makes the cell wall soft, supple, and sticky, so the hormones can attach and do their work. So it's just a tremendous amount of benefits by eating enough fish oil. And again, 2 grams a day is a pretty good target, but it'll also affect it and lower the triglycerides, increase the HDL. And again, it will help the particle size. So anything I feel can help the particle size is a good supplement to take. And again, within moderation and also depending on how you're combining everything with your nutrition. Now again, all these items here, except for fiber, can affect other medications. And so if you're on medications, then we need to look at that to make sure we don't get any contraindications as far as a reaction or create another problem. But it can all work. It's just a matter of just being smart about it. And then lastly, they've shown where fiber can help with lowering LDL, but to be honest with you, that's not a big deal. It can help, but I wouldn't put that down as something really super important. Now, having fiber has a lot of benefits to it, but it's not the make all break all. I would take all these other solutions away from where I'd be too concerned about fiber. But if you're eating and getting fiber, it's going to give you some help, but it's not going to be as effective as these other options that we're talking about. Okay, so I'm hoping I didn't get too over the top of some of this, but if you have a cholesterol concern, then these are some great resources that you can start to play with, and we can talk to you about it. Again, if you have questions, you can pop those in the group, and we can go more into detail to discuss. Other than that, I hope you found this entertaining, so to speak, and we'll talk to you again real soon.